Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this week's episode of Talk Exchange. Today we have with us George Tanber, who is a journalist who has traveled literally around the world, interviewing all sorts of amazing people. He has worked for publications that I'm sure you have heard of, interviewing mostly what he calls regular people. He's just got an amazing story. He also has a very established video background, and so today he's going to tell us not only about his own history, but also provide us with some promotional tips on promoting your club with video and social media. So, as usual, here's another episode that you do not want to miss. George Tanber here on Talk Exchange, and we'll see you again next week.
Welcome to this episode of Talk Exchange. I'm Tracy Edwards, CEO of the National Exchange Club.
And I'm Christy Lindahl, Director of Communications.
You know, it's so fun to meet with people, and it's funny because everything kind of links back to the same subject. We have interviewed people who are awesome professionals and community ambassadors and athletes and journalists, as we are today. But they all have a common love for community.
Yes.
And community service, and they continue to do good things. And our guest today is no different. He's a great partner of the National Exchange Club, creating our beautiful videos that we show at convention. So if you've not been to a national convention, definitely get to one, and you'll be able to see these beautiful videos that George and his team have created, as well as some other videos for us. So it's been fun to work with George, and we sat down and talked, and he's a fascinating person. I've been amazed by you and your stories and your career. You've done a lot of travel all over the world. So tell us a little bit about what got you into the travel bug and what you've seen out there.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I have a number of clients, but Exchange is one of my favorites.
Aww.
It's been a great relationship.
It has been.
Yeah.
We've done some really good things, and I think we're going to do more good things.
Definitely.
The travel bug started for me in third grade.
Really? That's early.
Yes.
Why? Because of a trip or what?
No, my teacher put up a bunch of pictures about Norway.
Ooh.
And I looked at that and I go, wow, that is beautiful. I just kept looking and I said, I want to go to Norway sometime.
Wow.
The next year, my parents bought me a globe, one of those old spinning globes,
Yeah.
and I was mesmerized by the globe, and I just started looking at all these countries. So by the time I got to high school, I got involved in the school paper, and I started to see a plan of maybe journalism and travel.
Wow.
That continued on to college, where I studied journalism. And then rather than take the traditional route was to join a newspaper and work your way up to become a foreign correspondent. That's pretty hard. I decided to just go off on the road on my own and just started traveling. And along the way, I picked up a camera and started to take pictures. And I just started to write stories and take pictures. And I ended up in Lebanon and at a time when there was a war going on. And I kind of became a war correspondent inadvertently.
Oh, wow.
Then I came home and I got a master's degree in communications. I needed a backup plan, so I studied PR and communications. So I got that ability and moved to Washington, got hired by National Geographic. That was my big break.
Wow.
They hired me off the street, basically. In fact, I'm writing about something like right now about that. And took a chance on me, and they sent me on an assignment, and that really jump-started my career.
Oh, how fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm surprised, though, because so many kids have big, lofty goals when they're young, and then it goes away. But the fact that that stuck for you is amazing.
I know.
Did you make it to Norway?
Oh, yeah, it was one of my first stops.
Wow.
First trip,
I have
1974.
chills thinking about that. That's so
Went
cool.
to Norway, and then from there it just kept, I thought I was going away for a couple months and then coming home and finish but I kept going for 2 years.
Wow.
It's gone 2 years.
So you're driven by dreams.
Definitely.
Yeah, I am, and it hasn't stopped. So
No, you're still I was going to say you're still traveling all over today.
51 years,
Wow.
off and on the road. So most recently I was in Uruguay and Brazil. And my stories are, I don't interview like presidents. I don't cover politics, none of that. I just write about people I meet on the road, regular folks. And the idea is through stories about regular people in other countries, Americans can learn about other countries because a lot of them won't have a chance to go to these countries or meet people like this. They may go on a tour or something like that, but they might not meet the people I meet. So it's always been my goal is to have people in this country learn about other countries through stories about people and pictures.
Wow.
Pictures tell a good story too.
They always
That's
Yes,
awesome.
they do.
Do you have a story that sticks out in your mind, George? One of your most memorable?
Oh, gosh. Christy, there are
Not
so
to put him
many.
on the
Right?
spot.
Well, I'll start with the most recent one. I was in Brazil, and the reason I went to Brazil was because I found out I had cousins there.
Oh, neat.
My origins are Lebanese, and when Lebanese migrated out of Lebanon 100 years ago, a lot of them went to here in the United States, and many went to Brazil.
Wow.
I found out in April I had cousins in Brazil, and one of them came here for a visit, and it turned out he was a journalism professor, and he came here to speak, and he heard about me, wanted to meet me,
Wow.
and he knew I was going to Uruguay, which is next to Brazil, and he said, why don't you come to Brazil, and I'll get you to speak at our university on journalism, and then you and I will go out and get some stories. I said, that sounds great.
Yeah.
So happened that his father, also my cousin, is one of the most famous people in this part of Brazil. He's a soccer announcer,
Wow.
Oh.
and he's done it for 70 years.
Oh my
And he's
gosh.
like a legend in this part of Brazil. So I had a story right there waiting for me.
Definitely.
And I just wrote it last week and published it last week. And this week it was put on the front page of all these newspapers in Brazil.
Wow.
And translated. And because he was my cousin, which I mentioned in the story, it made it a special story.
I
And
bet it did.
he doesn't read English, but he read the story. They sent me a video of him. He was actually crying.
Oh.
So when you connect with people
Yes.
in other countries and you make a difference in one way or another, then that to me is the reward for doing
Yes.
what I do.
Absolutely.
What an exciting way to make a living.
Well, it is. And every place is awesome. I know you and I talked about this when we chatted because, I travel in this country primarily as part of what I do for work. And people always say, what's your favorite place? And I always say it's so hard because every place is awesome. Every place has people who are proud of what they do, proud of their culture, proud of their food. They have great food, something unique and special. So really, every place is awesome. Is it hard for you to pick a favorite place?
It's the same for me as for you. Each one has its own charm.
Yes.
They're all different. I mean, I can't say which is the best.
Right.
But so many of them are memorable, mainly based on the people I meet. They
Right.
make the difference.
Definitely.
I was in Ghana a year ago. That was a trip I go to. I'm going to countries now I've never been to. I'm kind of running out.
I bet.
So I'm going to countries I've never been to that are safe because I used to go
Yes.
to countries that weren't so safe. So now, and Ghana and West Africa is a wonderful country, and the people there are just so friendly. And I did a story there
Yes.
that it's about slavery, and it turned out I interviewed a professor, and she was talking about the history of slavery and so forth. It turned out that her husband has a cousin who lives in Toledo, and he's
Wow.
a doctor here, and there was a connection here.
Oh, kidding.
Yeah, his name just slipped my mind at the moment. So I came back and went and saw him, and his cousin from Ghana sent a gift for me to give to his cousin
Oh
here.
my gosh, I love
So
that.
those sorts of things happen a lot when you travel.
I'm
these
sure.
small world stories. I'm sure happens to you.
It does. I had a good one, in fact, when I was in the state of Washington, and the club had a meeting at one of the state parks, and they said, oh, the director, you'll get to meet him. He's a Buckeye, too, from Ohio. And I was like, okay, cool. So we talked, and where did you grow up? And he said, oh, I went to Anthony Wayne schools. I said, I live in Anthony Wayne District. And he said, oh, I don't know if you know about it, but I grew up on this little quarry, and that's where I learned my love of archaeology because I dug there. And I said, well, hold on to your hat. There's houses around there, and I live there now.
No.
Crazy. So you're right. You can. It's amazing.
Which quarry?
You can-
Which quarry?
Salisbury.
At the on Salisbury.
Where
yeah.
I spent my childhood.
Yeah,
me too.
exactly.
Me
You
too.
did?
Oh, yeah.
So it's funny. Just you're right. Those connections. So you mentioned that you're trying to get to places you haven't visited. So what's coming up? What's still on your bucket list?
Well, if my wife's listening,
She will be.
I'm going to Estonia and Finland.
Wow.
Oh.
That
That'll-
sounds
that'll be in
amazing.
the summer. I've been to Scandinavia, but not Finland. And Estonia is a part of the Baltic nations. They were a part of the Soviet Union. And there's Latvia and Estonia, and they're pretty democratic countries. They're doing pretty well. So
Good.
I'm very curious about them. And I hope my readers are too. I try to go to
Yes.
places that they don't know about as well. So
Nice.
Where can people find your articles, George?
my website is called the roadboomer.com. The
Road
Road Boomer. I'm a boomer, and I'm on the road. So that's
appropriate,
That's
yes.
who I am. And you will find stories from my current travels. You'll find archive stories from going back many years. And I think I mentioned this. One of the interesting things about the older stories that I've done is I'm going back and I'm finding the people I interviewed years ago
Wow.
and finding out what happened.
Oh,
Kind of what we talked about for
Yes.
the Year magazine.
Yes, I love
Where are they
that.
now?
Yes.
And I've tracked down some people that I wrote about years ago and found out the rest of the story. So I have these postscripts, and that's kind of
Oh, I
cool as well.
love that.
I love that too. And we talked about doing something on the
Yeah.
Youth Award winners. Where are they now? Because, George, you've been so great when we've asked for your help with our magazine articles and really getting such an amazing story out of these people. You
Yeah.
know, clearly it's your profession, but also your heart and your way with people that's
Yeah.
been so amazing to bring
thank
out those stories.
Well, I have to say one of my favorite things I do with Exchange is I'm a judge
Yes.
Yes.
for the scholarships. I've been doing maybe 6 or 7 years now, and I really enjoy that.
Thank you for
I love
doing
it.
that. That's a big project.
It's a big job. I
It
don't know
is.
how. It has to be so hard to choose one
It's hard.
kid out of
But
all
you know,
of those.
it's hard because there's so much talent there.
Yes.
But their stories are astounding, and it makes you feel good about the future of this country when you know there are young people out there. And that's what I
Absolutely.
love about it. I say
Absolutely.
we're in good shape here.
I think so.
Yes.
Yeah, there's very much a social conscience, I think, with our young generation.
Yeah.
We see that in Exchange.
Absolutely.
Especially the ACE award to me. The ACE is the one where when these kids that grow up
Right,
in
yeah.
these unimaginable situations and they achieve greatness,
Yes.
I mean, it just blows my mind,
It
honestly.
does. It does. And we love to reconnect with them because their paths are absolutely amazing, like Tyler Osborne, for one.
yeah. You know, for our listeners who don't know about Tyler, he
Right.
was our ACE winner a long time ago, within the last 10 years.
Yeah,
but
maybe 5 to 6
5
years
to
ago.
6. Tyler connected with a family, 2 of our members, Nancy and Dan Wakely, and he essentially moved in with them, and he calls
Right.
them mom and dad. I believe he's working on his master's degree
He
now.
is. He is.
Yeah, he
Yes.
is doing amazing things, and I know our members at convention always love to catch up with Tyler.
Yes.
You know, but there are so many other stories out there that we can share.
Right.
You know,
That's
this has
just
been going
one.
on.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he then serves as a mentor when he comes to convention.
He
He
does.
takes those other kids under his wings. It's so beautiful. But let's talk about those videos because you create those magnificent videos, and video content, of course, is such a great way to get a message out, not just for us,
Right.
but for local clubs, and that's definitely your wheelhouse. So if a local club would like to start videos, anybody can do it from their phone. What should they do to get started with that type of content, George?
Well, we talked about if you want to recruit members
Mm-hmm.
and you want to recruit young members, then I think you need to be active in mediums like Instagram and TikTok.
Yes.
Facebook to a degree, but not so much anymore. That's older, but I'd say still
Mm-hmm.
Facebook. And I'm sure a lot of the clubs have Facebook pages.
For us, Facebook is really our wheelhouse because of our demographics. So
Yes,
it's a great
so-
place for people to talk about their club events and kind of publicize those. But definitely we utilize Instagram and TikTok
Yeah.
as well.
So, I mean, it can be as simple as making a video with your phone at an event. Interview some of your members, ask them what they're up to. You can do short is always better.
Yes.
People's attention span is not great.
True.
So 30-second video, putting somebody on camera and just asking them what they're involved in. What are you doing right now? Or what excites you about Exchange? You know, what do you love
Yeah, that's-
about?
yes.
What do you love about Exchange and what we do? So, and I would just say that if you really want to go young, TikTok, but Instagram is a very strong medium right now.
It is.
And you can do, videos for that. You don't have to get too technical in videos. You don't have to bring in cameras and all that.
No.
You can, the quality of a phone right now is extraordinary.
It is.
I have some pictures. I take pictures for my website.
Right.
And I have some pictures that I took with my phone. And if you look at them compared to the ones I took with my camera, you can't tell the difference.
Wow.
Really?
So the quality is such. And it's
Yeah.
the same for video.
And that's a great way for clubs to get the word out about what they do because they're looking for that attention in the community and wondering how to get their name out there, how to let the community know that they're doing good. And that's a great way, because when they post it, they could even tag some of those organizations to get their attention, right?
Yep.
Yes, for sure. So broadening it a little bit,
Yes.
and looking at all medium. The world of media has changed considerably. The local daily newspaper is not the only voice.
Right.
A lot of them have shrunk. So whereas in the past, there might have been a reporter you would always connect with, it's a little harder to do that. But still,
Right.
I always say, find a sympathetic voice at a newspaper that you can make that connection with, and keep them informed of what you're doing. Send them little news releases. If there's an event that you're doing, let them know.
Right.
Of course, if you're involved in the prevention of childhood abuse, which is the theme for anything you're doing in that area, to me,
Yes.
that's newsworthy. 'Cause it's such an important topic.
Yeah.
So develop your news sources in the daily newspapers, and now the smaller suburban papers are expanding because they're taking up the slack from the large dailies.
Oh, true.
So the smaller papers generally don't have many reporters, but often sometimes you can write your own little story, and they might even print it as is.
Nice.
So you want to build up a network with the smaller papers. Radio. Radio shows in your community. I would say some of them have local talk shows. If you haven't already done that, I think you want to get on a local talk show and try to get a connection there. TV stations, sometimes they have noonday shows.
That's true.
Have you been involved
We have,
in them
yes.
yourself?
Yeah.
So noonday shows in your in town, those are another markets you want to get into. Get on the program, talk about what you're doing. So there are many avenues. It's probably not a bad idea to have somebody in your club. Maybe somebody in your club has experience in the world of advertising and media, and maybe you can get
Right.
them to help you out. But to have a go-to person in your club who kind of can do that, and I don't know if that's something that's done or not.
Well, absolutely, and it makes sense. And you know what we're advising clubs and really learning from clubs is that they don't need a website anymore. Websites are complicated and expensive, and you typically don't have a person who's a professional in that area, and when they leave or things change, you don't even know how to do it. So really, they can accomplish everything they need to, as you mentioned, with Instagram, Facebook,
Yeah.
maybe TikTok, and just if you have a dedicated person, that really helps.
I would say the Facebook page can replace the website.
Yeah.
For
Absolutely.
sure.
That's what
And that can
yeah,
be your home base.
definitely.
And then from there, you can do different things.
So I have a couple of questions for you, George. Just trying to think about what our members who are listening might have some questions. How do you feel about the captions on the videos? You know, we do those short little videos for TikTok, Instagram.
Oh, good
You know,
question.
they even come into the Facebook Reels. I've noticed most videos are coming through with captions now.
True.
So you're talking about little.
Yes, that are placed in, not translated by the social
No.
service, but
Well, picture captions on a video can be good if they reinforce the message. And if people aren't really paying attention or they miss something, 3 or 4 words can do a lot.
yeah.
So are you asking me if I think
Yeah,
it's a good
so
idea?
for the most part, I feel like, a lot of people listen to their videos volume down, very low, or off all the way.
That's true. You're right about that.
Yeah.
So I'm just sourcing for
No,
your
I
opinion.
Well, let's go to our world of watching a movie on television.
Yes.
We often put subtitles up there because sometimes we aren't
Yeah.
picking things up, and it's sort of there as reinforcement.
Yes.
I do that all the time.
I do that on planes, and I found out I really like it.
Yeah.
I like to read along because I'm more of a visual person,
Yeah.
so I miss some things.
I think it's a good
Auditory?
idea to have words
Okay.
as reinforcement of what the other message
Yeah.
is.
Good.
Yeah, I like that.
I
And,
like that
You know,
too.
that's something that our clubs can do easily. Those services are out there. They're built in.
It's very simple.
Yes.
You just put the right words.
Yeah. And then another question I had is you mentioned that media has changed,
Yes.
drastically. We used to send press releases to the newsroom, right, and just
True.
wait for someone to call us.
Right.
It doesn't work that way.
No.
So what I've found is a lot of people partner with a specific reporter. A reporter who's got that big social media presence on their own.
Yes.
Yes. So would you recommend starting with that one person and then branching out to their networks?
Yes, I think that's a good idea. And you can track reporters if you know they're active on Twitter. That's a really good way because if the reporter's active on Twitter, then I would connect with that reporter. And it's a direct communication
Yes.
to them.
Okay.
So, and again, large newspapers now, they're so thin
Yeah.
in staffing. Reporters are covering multiple beats, whereas you had specific reporter for healthcare, education, and all these beats. Sometimes they're covering multiple beats. It's a lot harder to get their attention.
Sure.
But if you find one on Twitter and you see what they're interested in, and if their interests align with your interests, then I would hone in on them.
There you
Good
go.
point.
Yep, I like that. I like that.
Excellent. Any other words of advice for clubs out there based on what you've seen?
Me, and we started on this topic, recruitment is the number one thing
Yes.
for Exchange. Whatever you can do to recruit new members. Get your young members out there in the community. Get them talking, get them, interview them, make them the face of your club, and get them to bring in new young members.
Yes.
And that's how you're going to grow.
And that happens organically and consistently, right? Because some clubs think that they need to have one recruiting event a year, but this should be every day.
Every day.
You can do whatever. Networking, right?
And networking every day.
Good. Well, it's been a pleasure to talk to you, George. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Talk Exchange.
You're welcome. Happy to be here.
Great. And check out
Roadboomer.com.
Excellent. We'll do it.
Thank you, George.